Golden Craft.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Welcome back to Golden Craft Cast. I'm your host Sergio. Man, he's not in right now, but we do have a special guest. He's a returning guest. He's with me on all the best podcasts possible because, according to YouTube, he is in the highest viewed video so far in YouTube. Please welcome back Mr. Erik Rodriguez.
Hey, what's good, Sergio?
Hey, what's
Good
up,
to be
man?
back.
Yeah, to continue back on this podcast. So yeah, um, today we got a really special episode because we've been holding it off for a minute because the whole move and this whole thing that I'm doing, and also Manny's pretty busy. I'm pretty busy. Eric's pretty busy, and we wanted to make an episode on a very important movie in cinema history, and that is 1982's Blade Runner. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I uh, I wanted to talk about this movie for a while. I know it's not like really like everyone's cup of tea, but it is a very important movie that I think it should be like discussed about. There's plenty of people that talked about it like at endless just pretty much endlessly. And today's no different. Well, I guess it's different because we have us. So every perspective, every opinion is different. So that's why I wanted to have you on, Eric. So you know,
yeah, yeah. This movie, this film, like it does get discussed. It does come up in conversation, from time to time. Um, the first time that I heard it, brought up like in a like in a like with the recognition that it does deserve,
huh,
was in film class. I believe you took the same film class too at
did we?
the community college that we went to.
Oh, did you
For
take it?
film,
Oh, did you take it with her? You know what?
yeah.
Okay.
She brought
Yeah.
it up, and
Oh, really?
she hyped it up. She was like, "Yeah, you know how couples have a song. Well, me and my husband, that's our movie." And
Really?
like,
She said that?
yeah, yeah, she said that. I was like, "Oh, okay,
Oh, I didn't expect
yes."
that. Yeah, she never told us about that. I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, I mean, like not class specifically, we did talk about different movies because of different like aspects of films. Like one week it'll be like, oh, they concentrate on cinematography. The other day is like is it sound design or whatever. So I mean, I don't think I saw like anything like that in the class or mentioned. I don't know if it was in the textbook either. So I don't know.
She brought it up. I forget
Yeah.
what part of like the semester we were in, like what part of film we were in, but she brought it up. We didn't see it. Like it wasn't one of the movies that she used to that she decided to like do a screening of. You get me?
Okay.
Um,
Do you remember like what's aspect she was
she was
associated with? With what?
yeah, like
Sorry.
not too sure.
Okay.
I want to say cinematography,
Yeah.
but I'm not too sure. I mean, because yeah, I mean that would make sense, right?
Yeah, it does.
This movie cinematography does get some critical acclaim, right?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, but
it's discussed about because this is before like any color grading was done. So the use of like color lights or like using like color filters on the lights is pretty much used in this movie to like set up the mood and whatnot. So yeah,
yeah,
I could see why. Like, oh, the cinematography totally does make the difference of the mood. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is a masterclass in like that department, definitely. So I mean, we're not just going to talk about like that aspect, but also like the whole story and the legacy that it's brought and whatnot, and especially diving into like the sci-fi world, because the it is based on a book, really, but not to the core. It's just like loosely based on it. So we'll talk about that and
Okay.
all its implications. So but
Have you read the book? My
before
bad.
that,
We'll
yeah,
save that for later.
yeah. For I'm like trying to transition. Before that, let's talk about the beers. All
Okay.
right. So I'll start off. So I got this beer. It's called I know it's like inverted and whatnot, but it's the Dankster. So I pretty much got it because it reminds me of like this movie is a neo noir, and of course like gangster movies are kind of like that too. So I thought it was just like, oh yeah, like they they have like their suits and whatnots, and it's like very like in that time, but also futuristic. So I thought I brought this. It's a double IPA. It's from Lead Dog Brewing Company. I know we had some couple of their beers before in the past, so yeah, this is cool. This is at 88.8. IBU is like 90, so it's gonna be pretty bitter. Can't wait.
All
Um,
right.
yeah. What do you got?
All right. Well, I got two, but I think I'm gonna go with this one for the first one.
Okay.
Rodriguez, After Reality.
Fracture Reality. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's good.
I don't know. Just I like the imagery. Honestly, both of these beers, like I was looking for something like that fits the an image that fits like the theme, and I
Yeah,
don't know. They just kind of seem to fit the
yeah,
theme you
that
get
kind
me.
of
The
does.
whole,
Yeah,
you know.
in some sense, it kind of does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna open this.
I got both of these at Ramirez.
Oh yeah, this food.
So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you've had this one.
I actually have not had that one before.
Nah. Well,
Nah.
it's by Fractured Reality. No. Oh wait, it's not Crafted Reality. I'm sorry. Fractured Reality. It's called.
Oh,
Uh,
Pressure Reality. Okay.
yeah.
Who's the brewery?
The brewery is Mother Earth Brew Company.
Oh shit, that's cool. Yeah, they
If-
made the creamsicle. I think that's what it was called. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Manny
what's that?
actually liked it. Yeah,
Man, okay.
not that beer specifically, but they made a beer called the creamsicle. I
Yeah.
think it was called the creamsicle, and it was like a little like band in the back, and then oh no, it was like a paletero or some shit, or
Hmm.
some an ice cream truck. I don't remember, but
Okay.
I'll look it up.
Did he
But
get
yeah,
it from
so
Ramirez or where?
I forgot where he got it from. He got it from somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure he
All
didn't
right.
get it from Ramirez. But yeah, yeah, Ramirez is cool. If you
Yeah.
guys, I mean, in that area of, um, I'm not gonna say specifically, but that local shop, it's pretty cool. I liked it. I got introduced to that to one of my friends. He's actually been in a show, Felipe. Yeah, he showed me because it was like by his house, and then we would just get beers there whenever like we would hang out. We're just like, oh, dude, this is alcoholic Disneyland. It's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when
It's
I
a
was out there,
hazy IPA.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to read in the back, or is it like,
Well, you gotta know me. Like, I'm not that well versed on beer, especially compared to you and Manny.
yeah?
Uh, I
Well,
say
I'm
that with
saying
all
no,
due
I'm
respect.
saying like, do you have anything that's you could read from the beer can? Like,
Yeah.
does it have a detail?
Uh, Eldorado, Citra, Triumph. The alcohol volume is 7.5. Let me see. And that's pretty much it. Doesn't really have like a description.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Sorry, I
No, you're
turned
good.
that for that.
No, you're good.
I guess.
Because
Right. So,
not all of them had descriptions on them, so it's like
no.
good. Yeah. All right.
All right.
So what I do is just like I kind of showed my beer, There's gonna be like a screenshot or something. All right. Yeah, you're good. Damn. My shit's just like disappearing. I'm just like showing this fucking thing.
When
There
I
it is.
first started reading it, I thought I said like Dankenstein or something. I was like,
Thank-
that's
thank-
not a bad
It's a
name for fucking
Dunkenstein.
like a beer or something.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I like yours. That shit looks fucking cool. The graphics look fucking cool. All right,
Right?
man. Cheers from afar.
For sure.
From
All right.
Covina to Daly City.
All right.
I
I'm
wait till
open
you
my.
open. Woo. Yeah, I had this graphic changed for a fucking while.
Okay. This is pretty good. For
Yeah.
IPAs, this is actually pretty good. I'm not the biggest fan of IPAs. I mean, they're good, but not my go-to. You get me?
Yeah. I like this one. This one's just like unique taste. It doesn't. I thought I was gonna expect like a little bit more dankness or more herviness. Remember the beer that I offered you? It was like
Yeah.
Elysian. It was the dank IPA. Now I like a
Yeah.
little hop, and it was just like low eyes and shit. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like that because it's like it's a dank beer. I thought,
Yeah.
and I thought it was gonna be like a little more herbier, but I could kind of taste it, but it's not like overpowering like everything. It's just like it's okay. So it's like it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it's pretty smooth. I like it. It's not as bad as I thought. It's like even though it's like the IBU is 90, I'm like, or maybe I'm just used to it. I don't know.
Mm.
But yeah, it's pretty good. Um, I'll come to it and rate it if anything, just to like see how it sits with me. It's all good. But yeah, yeah, man, let's get started on this movie. I mean, I know this is your first time watching it, so what did you initially thought about this movie? As soon as the credits roll, you're like, "Oh, okay."
Well, I mean, from previous discussions and then that one class, I kind of gathered, that it is kind of like a futuristic science fiction, piece.
Mhm.
So I was already expecting that. And of course, it was during Harrison Ford's era when he
Yeah,
was
yeah. We need to speak forward. Yeah,
yeah
yeah. I thought
I
so
mean
too.
he's still an icon, but that was like his era, like when he was doing Indiana Jones and all that
Yeah, that's right.
stuff. Yeah. And yeah, I just see why he was like the guy. I was surprised to read Edward James Olmos his
Yeah,
name on the beginning credits. I was like, oh, okay,
yeah.
this is pretty nice.
And then you watch the movie. He's like, "Why are you speaking Japanese?"
That did trip me up.
Yeah, I was
That
like,
did
"Oh
trip
shit."
me up. He was so committed to it too. You could
Yeah,
see it.
yeah.
Like I respect it. I'm laughing, but I respect it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I do too. I was like, it's like one of those movies I'm glad he's in because like it is set in LA, so there's like bit of a multicultural thing going on
Yeah,
there too. So
yeah,
like they're in Japantown or some area where it's just like um more towards like Japanese, but also like like all cultures of people live there. You got Mexican Americans living there, African Americans, Koreans go to Koreatown. I mean, besides Koreatown, that Chinatown, Japan. Um, Definitely a lot of Armenians in the Glendale area. Shout out to them. So it's good to see that type of stuff, and also just to see him as like in the '80s, like having like a Latino actor having to be like in that type of role. It's like, oh, okay, sorry, sorry, folks.
that's good.
Yeah, you know how it is. If you watch the previous episodes, that's always kind of been an issue. It's an issue on my end, so that's what goes on. What was I? Yeah. yeah, I'm glad to see like someone that was like in the
And
'80s, like having to
it,
like having to have an actor like that just be in this type of movie, you know, like when when like I'm saying too much when the majority of like Hollywood, especially like during that era or at that time of the era, was just like primarily white, and then having to like having him to be in it, it's just like, oh, that's a surprise. But I mean, besides him, also like James Hong, who is a very famous like Chinese actor that is in everything, like literally everything. And he always seems like he's like the same age, like he's just the older Chinese dude. And then you see him in this movie, it's like, oh shit, that's the guy from Seinfeld. And then he was also in like he was also the grandpa from Everything Everywhere All at Once. So it's just like, oh fuck.
Mhm.
Yeah, remember? Like it's like good to see that cast. And um yeah, I mean besides them, you also got Daryl Hannah, who's uh a lot of people don't associate this, but she's in the '80s. She was in Roxanne. She was, that character Roxanne. Also like newer movies, like newest I could think of is like Kill Bill. She was what's her name? Ellie? I forgot. It was Ellie or something. It was like it was the uh it was that one chick that really hated her. He literally wanted to kill her like at in the beginning, but then like Bill pretty much said like, "Oh, yeah, don't kill her." And then he's like, "What? This is bullshit." He said like that one eye patch, and then in the part two, like the other eye came out. She left
Yeah.
her blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, she plays Pris on this one, so it's pretty cool to actually see like a cast that's like you know um that's pretty cool. Everyone's on their A game on this, and it's a very interesting casting choice. Everything. At the time, Harrison Ford, they did warrant Harrison Ford because of those reasons that you said. He was at his peak.
Mhm.
And a lot of people think it's like, oh, Harrison Ford is in this sci-fi movie, so it's like kind of like Star Wars. Like, yeah, it is like Star Wars, like Star Wars. There's certain things like it is like Star Wars. Like I would say, like the use of miniatures in that movie is just all over the place, which still holds up to this day.
Yeah.
But besides that, I don't remember the first time I watched this. To be honest, I have um, I think like in I think it was like in high school I watched it. I think I watched it like in cable or something, but I don't remember which cut it was because there's like 8 different cuts of this movie. If you guys aren't aware,
Yeah.
but like I think it was the international cut that they had back in the days, but it wasn't until like 2007 that they had like the final cut. Yeah,
The fun.
yeah, it was the final cut.
Yeah, the Director's Cut I think came out in the early '90s, like '90.
92. Yeah, I remember
So,
because I saw a video on it yesterday. So I think it was 92. And
yeah,
that
I
cut.
hear Ridley Scott doesn't stand by it though, or
Yeah.
like disowned it or something.
It was because like he actually didn't have any like say in it. It says this is the director's cut, but really like the studio kind of got involved and said like, oh, well, this is the closest thing to really wants. What really wants is just like, and he's like, no, this is not what I fucking want.
Yeah, so he had no like creative control over it.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck, like you gotta fight for that cut. So he actually did, and it's like, fuck, now we have like 8 cuts of that movie. It's like this has never been a movie that does that before. Like there's certain movies where it's like the theatrical cut and then it's like the director's cut and then that's it. But we never had like 8. I was just like, fuck, like how does that even happen? You know?
A lot of disagreement, I guess, among like the
Yeah.
production.
Yeah. Talking about disagreements, really Scott and Harrison Ford got into it. Well, not like physically, but just like going back and forth like for creative reasons. They weren't like on the same page on things. So there was like a lot of back and forth on that, which I could see. Really Scott's pretty hard on director and Harrison Ford like, really does have his way on things. So you know,
Yeah, I can see that. But I mean, this isn't like the only film they worked on, right?
no, this is the only film that I ever worked on. I thought about it
No.
for a while, and I was like, wait, this is. I think this is the only movie they worked on together.
Well, okay. Well, that happens, you know. You
Mhm.
meet an actor or like a director, like just another artist that you're collaborating with, and you know,
Yeah,
you find out you don't speak the same language. Because I mean, they're both good. You can't deny
yeah,
that. They both know what they're doing. You get me?
yeah,
But that doesn't mean they're always gonna be on the same page,
yeah,
and that's fine.
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, it's fine. It happens. It's just one person takes it the other way, the other person takes it another. It's like two people don't think the same as one.
Yeah.
Like but as long as they're like in similar pages or the same way or just on the same page, that could work. It's just like, oh, okay, that works for me here and there or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, but um, yeah, just speaking on that too. Um, the theatrical cut actually had like it had narration, it had like a voiceover, and freaking Harrison Ford didn't like it, so he was like against it, even though he did the voiceovers. And I kind of listened to some clips of the theatrical cut, and it kind of sounds like it doesn't really sound that great. It doesn't sound natural because, like, the way that Harrison Ford like talks, it's just like it just sounds lazy. It's like, and then I did this, and oh no 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 no. But yeah, it sounded like he just wasn't trying hard enough because I don't think he liked going back and having to do those like um that voice job. And it's reported that he actually did try to do it, but a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's because he was like he didn't like it and he was like half-assed, so he just like half-assed it through it, and that's why it sounds bad. So there's two sides of the argument, so I'm not really too sure, but to me it sounds like kind of it's weird. It sounds weird.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen it or anything, but I just
Yeah,
saw the final cut.
yeah.
Sounds like I might agree with Harrison Ford. I mean, well, I don't know if it sounds weird or anything because I haven't heard it, but I
I mean,
I would say, I mean, I would ask, is it necessary? Because I saw the film
well,
and I was
it's up
like,
to you. I mean, I
I
was
think it's fine
yeah,
without it.
yeah, because I'm gonna ask you like, do you feel like there needs to be narration? Like, would that add a little bit more to like the story?
Maybe to the neo noir aspect.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get me?
yeah.
Like to
That's
make
what
it
they were going for. Yeah,
more under that category. But I mean, to tell a story, no.
yeah,
Just to the only purpose that I could see for it, just to make it more neo noir, like make it
yeah. That's what they were going for and stuff. Also, I forgot to mention this, but I think one of the main reasons why they added narration is because they had a test audience, and the test audience were confused. They didn't know what was going on, so they just needed like a voice to actually like explain it to them. But I mean, nowadays, like if you do narration in any movie, it's just fucking lazy writing. To explain everything, it's just lazy writing. But
yeah,
you know,
depends. I mean, there's some movies that do it pretty well.
yeah,
Like the example that comes to mind is the film The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
mm,
You've seen that,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I seen it.
Yeah, like the narration in that movie, in that film, works really well. But I mean, it's a specific type of narration. It's almost like documentary style narration.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Definitely, yeah. I see
Yeah.
it.
So that's I feel like that's why it works. Um, and I don't know. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen that film. I don't think they did it to like spoon feed the audience and letting them know what's going on
Yeah,
just in case they were confused. I think there was more. I would say it was more of a just like a creative element to the story.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely gets it
Um,
like a tone or a mood of that movie itself.
yeah,
So it's just like, oh, like it even gives it like that because it's an actor acting for those time for that time. So he's like, using that language and having that tone and having to tell that story about the players that was going on. I think it just adds a very unique aspect onto that film. So,
yeah,
unlike this one, like this one was just like, I mean, yeah, the narration could have been better. Maybe if it was like mentioned by no, I don't know. I'm getting way into the narration, but there's always a good difference between like good narration and then just an unnecessary one. But
yeah. I mean, if they're going for a narration that to make it more neo noir, I'm thinking maybe more like Sin City, the
yeah,
way they did it, because
yeah,
that worked pretty well too.
yeah. Well, I mean that's more of a style, really. I would say because it's just like going into that internal monologue that they have. And of course, like being neo noir, like they were going for that too. Like, oh, like he was just thinking about that. But I think now remembering the few clips that did see, somewhere it did feel like it was kind of spoon fed, and then like uh that part where well, I mean, there's a whole spoiler alert on this whole fucking episode if you haven't seen it, obviously. But I mean that um they did give a narration as soon as like Batty dies, and then he was just saying like, oh, he like what did he say? He for him to die, it took a while. It felt like a pain, and then he was going kind of poetic on it. And it was like, yeah, we can see him dying. He's right there in the corner dying. We could see that. Like we don't, And I get that he was being a little poetic, but it just didn't work. I was just like, okay, well, it's kind of weird. Because I think like just with the music and the score, the and just having that visual, like in slow motion or a close up, like I think it works, and we know what's going on. Like you just, oh, his time has come.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, I mean,
like that's all we need.
it, I mean, maybe it was necessary, but I mean, I didn't mind it so much. I mean, I enjoyed, how poetic it was.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the narration, but the narration, I was talking about the narration on it, but in the movie, it works
oh,
perfectly. Yeah, the final cut,
okay, now I
everything.
get you.
Yeah,
Okay, my bad.
yeah, you good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, the
oh,
movie, yeah, the cut that we're referring that we watched that we're actually gonna review is actually the final cut. Um, so that's basically like the final cut, the ultimate cut that really Scott wanted. So that's the thing that we're referring to. That's the version that we're gonna dive into just based on what we saw, and what we thought about and giving our thoughts on that. But I do, I remember I watched the director's cut,
yeah.
and I think I still have it on my PS3. And I have my PS3 on me. I brought it with me. The only thing is that I didn't bring the PS3 controller itself. Um, I think, I think I could have used the power supply from my PS4 to the PS3. I'm not too sure. But I remember I had that in my PlayStation 3. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, the first time I watched it, it wasn't on my PS3, but I think I saw it in cable. And then later on, years later, I watched it again. But I mean, after watching it for the first time, and then I didn't watch it for a while since, and then I went into film school, and they mentioned it in film school, and they talk about the importance. And at the time, I was young, and then they said like, "Oh, what do you think about Blade Runner?" I think I was talking to someone, one of my fellow student classmates, and we were just both thinking like, "It's all right." Like I didn't see anything special about it. We can't appreciate that type of film when we're young. But I think it's just like over the years and having to know about like ex- uh, the importance of existing, and then having to go through life and having to really think about like um just like humanity in itself. I think you grow older and having to understand it as we grow is very important, and also like you get to see and appreciate that those type of aspects of it, of just life in itself. And this movie is very much about that. Like everyone has an expiration date, and this movie is about the human condition in itself. So I come to appreciate it as I got older and watch it as like an older man and as older filmmaker. I definitely see like, yeah, this movie does deserve its significance, or its attention to the fullest extent, because it's very unique. They don't make
Yes,
movies like this.
having studied, my bad not to cut you off, but
No, go
having
ahead.
going to college and having studied, the little bit of philosophy and the little bit of psychology that I have, does does mm, give you an appreciation for the the themes of this film.
Yeah, definitely.
It does have you appreciate it, like, a bit more. Without that, I mean, obviously, I would have watched this film with a different perspective. I probably wouldn't have gone through it. Like,
Yeah,
I
I know.
probably,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
thought, well,
Honestly,
like, what is this? I would have been like
yeah,
completely lost or something.
yeah. I
But
never taken philosophy, but I know you're a philosophy minor, so I kind of dive into philosophy here and there. So I think it's important as a filmmaker, as an artist, you have to kind of dive deep, well, not dive too deep, but dive in some depth or in some level into philosophy, because you know philosophy is about like having to have a question or a statement about life in itself. And like as an artist, you have something to say. So when you have something to say, it's like, okay, what are you trying to say in this piece of art? So you're pretty much like a little philosopher in itself. And I learned that during this first semester. Well, I didn't learn that, but I think this is the theme of my semester going through school this semester. It's like, yeah, everyone's a little philosopher, and uh, I feel like that's gonna be the running theme of my semester. I don't know. It just feels like we'll get into that in a whole different conversation, but yeah,
yeah,
this is something that people are trying to say something, trying to open up themes, trying to like open up like just like the idea about AIs and humanity in itself. So it's like, it's interesting.
well, yeah. I mean, philosophers, they question everything.
Yeah.
And so do artists.
Yeah.
So filmmakers and writers and actors and everything. Um, and this film does bring up questions about existentialism and the human condition. And I mean, the little bit of research that I did on this film, the biggest question that pretty much goes unanswered is whether Deckard is a replicant or not.
Yeah.
And then, you know I dove in a little deeper into that question, and to just went into the question of, what does it really matter?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's
I
the
mean,
thing.
is there a
That's
difference if
yeah.
he's by that level of that replicant Nexus 6 or whatever?
Hmm.
Is there a difference between a replicant and a human being? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what like that's I think that's like one of the questions that's diving deep. Like, do the emotions of like an AI, which was programmed to show human emotions to like its extended authenticity, does that validate as like a human being? Like the only difference is just like, oh well, they're artificial, but seemingly they have flesh just like us, and they seem like us. But I mean, are they real? Are their memories and their emotions like validated by any point or any
Yeah,
sense of
like,
it?
they're obviously they those memories to the replicants. They obviously have subjective value to them.
Yeah,
You know, they could care less if those memories were and experiences were installed in them or if they actually happened. To them, it has value, and to them, it's something real.
Yeah.
Which brings up the question of, well, does that make it objectively real? Objectively valuable?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, which is interesting, and it's an interesting question to ask in film, and it really goes unanswered, which I like,
Yeah.
because it's not someone shoving, like an artist shoving their opinion at you,
Yeah. It's
like,
open to
yes, it does
interpretation.
matter, or no, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like, it's just, it's up to you. Here's the question we're asking. We give you some, you know, something you can hold on to,
Yeah.
so you can argue either side.
Yeah.
You know?
Something that gives you to think about, really. Because, yeah, I mean, like, I think, um, based on the source material, this is actually like Philip K. Dick's novel. The original the title was based on, it was actually called like Do Electron yeah, Do Robots Dream of Electronic Sheep, which is, a question in itself, but also like sort of like an ironic satire on itself.
Yeah.
And having a question about like artificial intelligence, and like if we were to make this and make it seem real, I mean, does that validate, like, oh, like, do they dream of electronic sheep? Because we have like real sheep, like, do they think of, like, so it's like, yeah, it's a funny thing, it's a funny like title in itself. But yeah, based on what I just heard, like, that book's kind of um takes around this place about like to similar circumstances. The only difference is it takes place in San Francisco, and I think like there's only a certain amount of humans that um are in the city, and they're quarantined or whatever, and then the rest of the world is just like contaminated with radiation and whatnot. So they're going something else with that setting, but I think like the core themes are like still there and stuff. And also they funny thing, another little tidbit. They actually bought the rights for a book called Blade Runner. It has nothing to do with like the movie, but they just liked the title so much that they had to like buy the rights to actually use that title for their title on the movie. So it's just like, oh, that's funny, which is not bad because I I think Blade Runner is like a really good title. Like it's just like kind of um, what do I call it? It's not. I lost my train of thought, but it just sounds good right off the tongue and stuff. It just sounds like it could be its own term on itself. It's like, oh, okay, that works.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I was wondering about the title a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know, because I mean, again, I never saw. This is my first time watching this film, and I don't know that just the title, the fact that it's science fiction. I don't know why I pictured, like fucking rollerblading or something.
yeah, me too.
Like kids,
I'm not gonna
like
lie, I kind of thought
futuristically,
about
like
that
having
too.
like skates.
It's like Blade Runner. It just sounds like futuristic. It just sounds like, I don't know, like fucking um, what was that one movie? It was about rollerblading, but it was like a sport, and I was uh, fuck, I forgot.
Hold on. Continue with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let me do something real quick. I'm not gonna take that long. Who was
Please
in that
don't.
movie?
Who was in that movie? I don't remember. LL Cool J, I think. I think.
Oh, Cool J.
Yeah. I forgot. All I remember is that everyone was. It was like, yeah, it was based on the sport, but I remember like girls and guys will shower together, and it wasn't. It was like sort of like Starship Troopers, where it was just like kind of general, gender neutral. So it just everyone treated each other the same. I think it was called Roller. You know what? Forget the title. We're getting sidetracked. See, Eric.
Nah. Well,
Eric.
to be honest, I just
Eric.
wanted to ask just if you keep talking into the
Oh
name
wait,
while
I
doing
think it was
something.
called Rollerball. I think it was called Rollerball. I don't know. I'll look into it later.
I want to
Anyways,
say I kind of saw that, but
I kind of saw that too, but I don't remember.
no, not I didn't see it, but I want to say I remember like the traders and all that, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I saw it. But anyways, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, that should. Yeah, this is the name and the title itself is pretty cool. Yeah. So, um, okay, just another little tidbit. um,
Mhm.
they will never make this in today's age, but at the release of like Blade Runner, Marvel actually made a comic on Blade Runner, the movie itself, and it was basically the whole movie, and it was like it had a bunch of spoilers and everything. It was basically the entire movie, just like in a graphic novel um format of it all, and that shit was kind of weird. Well, it wasn't. It was weird that they did that, but then again, like nobody really like bought the comic or saw the comic or are aware of the comic, and I didn't know about this, but now I kind of want that comic because I think that comic has value now to it. Now you think about it, but what from what I saw, it's very accurate to like what you see in the movie, and it's actually pretty illustrated. It was illustrated really nice. Like the images are pretty striking and stuff. So it was like, yeah, it does look like a comic, like a Marvel comic book, and it looks pretty cool. So I was like, oh shit, that's something that a lot of people they won't do around this day and age. I mean, they will probably do like a comic spin-off on like whatever their movie is, but I think that's as far as the extent will go. But I don't think they will actually like spoil anything, which is cool. Just a little fun thing on that. So it was cool.
Yeah. I mean, pretty sure you can find that on the internet. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you want the physical copy of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty sure you can find that on the internet.
Yeah, I'll probably find it. I don't know. I don't know if it has value on it. I just imagine it would because the
Yeah,
legacy of this
it
movie and
does.
whatnot. But it's cool. Um, yeah, I would say like yeah. Let's go into like story. Like, I mean, the overall story was pretty straightforward. Um, I would say it's more
Um.
like a detective story in itself. So it's just like him having to go on leads and it leads one thing to another, and of course it has perspectives of like the Nexian Six and them having to be on Earth and having to, because their main goal is to like find a way to live longer because they don't really last long. They're gonna expire. They only last like what 6 years or so. So
Four, I believe.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's about four. Yeah. So it's really about them having to a race against time, but also the Blade Runner, played by Harrison Ford, going against time to like eliminate these guys because they're a threat and it's illegal to have a Nexus 6 on planet Earth as you read it in like the title sequence in the beginning of the film. So do you think like that title sequence, the all that reading and that exposition, do you think like it kind of helped you understand the story of the movie?
You talking about the exposition in the beginning, right?
Yeah, when it has
Yeah.
like
Well, reminded me of Star Wars.
yeah, in its way it's like yeah, it is like Star Wars, like it gives you like the necessary things that you need to know about the role of that story.
Yeah. I mean, it's around the same era, Star Wars as well. So they have that as an acceptable, excuse or whatnot. But I don't know. I hate to say this, but I think it in today's era it would just be lazy writing.
Really?
You know. Um,
I
but
mean,
I mean, it does work. I mean, it didn't bother
yeah,
me that much. Like, I mean, knowing that it's from the Star Wars era and like
yeah,
science fiction and everything. I accepted it.
yeah,
Like I does. fine with it.
Yeah, I think it's like how. I mean, we mentioned this before, but the theatrical cut, nobody knew what the fuck they were talking about, so they
Yeah,
kind of needed to figure it out for themselves. But I think the alternative to like the narration would have to be this. It's like, okay, we don't need that narration. We just need to know like the context and what happens before. What's the law of like this world? Like we know like AIs were created by the Tyrell Corporation, and most of them were sent over to be like work slaves in like different planets, colonial planets of like Mars. And like I mean, we knew like eventually like the AI would be so smart that it just becomes sentient, that they will want to revolt, and then that's what led to like them having to be dangerous to the eye of humanity. And then if we were to see one like in Earth, like you know you would have to kill it, and then that pretty much like puts a special department on Earth to hunt down like these androids, which we know um those specified cops will be known as like Blade Runners. So that's where we got the name.
yeah. Um,
They explain that, yeah.
I mean,
I mean, even without that, you wouldn't think like you would just get that right away. Like, oh, okay, I know like these guys that are like, huh, there's
no,
something off
honestly,
about that.
not that you frame the question that way. I do see why it was necessary. It was necessary only just to err on the side of like, okay, we need to make sure everyone that's buying a seat to watch this movie gets it.
Yeah,
Because if they miss one piece of information, they're just gonna completely get lost.
yeah,
Which I mean, I'm at fault for that too. Like when I watch a film or like a play or something, if I miss something, I'm bound to miss something. So like you got to find ways to like either really establish it right off the get go, or is keep putting reminders throughout the film. Like
yeah,
there's this law. You know,
yeah. It'll be like a
stuff
hit
like
or
that.
miss, or
Um,
blink or miss type of deal.
yeah. I mean, as you're in law. I'm a writer. I'm specifically a playwright, but I mean, I am interested in screenwriting.
Yeah,
The way I would probably do it, and I don't know if it's the best way to do it, would probably be like I would probably weave it into that first scene, that interrogation scene, which is
hmm,
a phenomenal scene, to be honest with you, like
yeah,
really well done. Um, I would probably integrate and like weave it into that scene, like they have Leo, is it?
yeah. It's Leo.
Yeah, they have him come in and everything. Well, Mr. Leo, I forget his last name, whatever.
He doesn't have
As
a
you
last
know,
name.
this is what's going on. These are the news, and like this is the law, and this is why you're here, and like you gotta go, have you take the. We could have everyone take this test, including you, like shit like that. Like I
Yeah,
would have probably weaved it into that.
yeah,
However, I do love that scene the way it is. I think I like to even like touch it even more. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it,
yeah.
um,
Cause it like that
it could
scene in
probably be
itself.
done, but it's risky.
Yeah, that scene itself just like kind of sets up everything for the rest of the movie. Because you already have that information in the first part of the movie about Nexus. They're replicants. They seem like us. They talk like us, but there's something different about them. And that scene, like, if you pay attention to the body language, you could see him like not blinking, and then he's like questioning everything. He even questions about like where. They asked him like, "Oh, you're in the desert." He's like, "Which desert?" I was just like, "It's just like when you're like automatically." Like if they were to ask us that question, it's just like it really doesn't matter. Like it's just a hypothetical question, And he even points that out. It's like it's just a hypothetical question, and you right off the yeah, right off the bat, you kind of know like something's a little off, and that kind of creates like tension, and you could hear it in the music too. Like it's just like, or in the sound effects too. Like it's just like, dun, 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 like things are getting tense. He's like, is he on to me? But I think like the tester, I think it was pretty oblivious to it. But I think Leon kind of took it as a different way. He just like kind of reacted to it and said like, "Don't talk about my mother." Again, when he says like, "Oh, don't talk about my mother," it's kind of like ironic because he doesn't really have a mother, you know, in some sense. He's artificially made. The closest thing he
Yeah,
has is just
his
like the
experiences
corporation.
about his mother,
Yeah,
right?
he's like, "Don't ask about my mother," and he's like, and then he shot him, and it was like a hard cut. So it's just like, way to start the fucking movie like that, and then having to show like landscape of like L.A. in 2019 in that version of that movie. Which is kind of funny because now seeing it like we're past 2019 is just like kind of ridiculous. But now we live in like a world where like we're in our world, where in the fictional world we're kind of accepting like alternative realities. So we see this as a alternative reality in 2019. That's how I see it, and that's how I explain it. It's like the same way like Back to the Future is like, oh, 2019 Back to the Future is like, oh, that's an alternative reality of like the future. So
Yeah, I mean,
you
if you
know
tell some people from that era, they would have told you
yeah, yeah. So
they would
it's
tell you like, oh, we thought dinner was gonna be a pill. You know what I mean?
yeah, we thought dinner was
Like,
gonna be like microwave, and then it takes like 3 seconds, and now it's like a whole ass pizza. But no, it's not like that. No, but that's just that. I mean, that's the other thing too. Like this movie has like its own version of the future of what it was supposed to be like, and you kind of see like a very dark dystopian future that's like large advertisement everywhere, which I would say there's large fucking electrical billboards in LA too. So it's like you're not that far off, but it's just like a little different. You know what I mean?
yeah. By the way, I don't know if it's still a segment on your podcast. It's been a couple of months, but that's probably one of my top two right there.
What?
That scene, that interrogation
Oh,
scene.
okay, we'll get into that right now. So he's like, but yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it sets off like the mood right. Um, and of course, the rest of the movie we focus on Harrison Ford, who plays Deckard. And Deckard, we kind of see like he's a detective. From what I heard, I didn't know about this, but I guess I wasn't paying attention. Is that he is actually retired, and then he came back to the force to find like the Nexus Six that were wanted in Earth. So I was like,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
okay,
he
yeah,
he was basically forced back into out of retirement.
Mhm.
In fact, being a neo noir film, that's a
That's a trait.
uh,
Yeah,
that's like a thing in film noir.
yeah. Well, I kind of seen it
Neo
as
noir a
a
little bit too. The main character gets forced in. Like, he doesn't go by choice really.
yeah.
He gets
Okay,
forced
yeah,
into
you're
like this
right.
journey.
But I kind of seen it more as a western because I seen it as like, oh, the gunslinger for one last job, or the highest one last job. It's just like the one last job or the job that brings you back into that shit. So I
Well, I
kind of did
mean,
see
if
it.
it was a western, I would see it more like, okay, it would be more out of revenge
Yeah,
than a job. You get me? Like, oh, you killed my brother, and now I gotta kill you.
yeah.
You get me? Something like that.
No,
That's
sometimes
how
some yeah, some
like
west
it would be by
yeah.
choice, not by force.
No, the
Well,
it could also
this-
be okay. Let me say this to you, but it could also be a western if you think about it. Like, okay, well, he was the best bounty hunter out there, so they brought him back. It's nothing out of revenge. It's just a job, and he's the best at it. And then you have four wanted um outlaws. Well, in this case, it would be like three outlaw like fucking androids out there. So in a sense, like yeah, it does have like that aspect of like the Western having to bring back like that bounty hunter or that guy that's really good at his job just to like do that one last job. You know?
okay,
Yeah,
yeah, you can
you
see
can see
that.
that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one last job also includes like kind of an emotional attachment. There's like, of course, this one's special because, of course, he does fall in love with like one of the androids and stuff. So it's like, which is like kind of, in a sense, like I think that was his whole journey having to him because he's used to like seeing like androids like, oh, she's a replicant, you know. You don't know she's in uh the android we're referring to is like Rachel, who works for the Tyrell Corporation, and you know he automatically discovers like, oh, like she's a replicant, but she doesn't know she's a replicant. But you know, you kind of have a sense that he's prejudiced against like replicants, like even scared about it, because there's some scenes where he's kind of like a little freaked out by her. But
Yeah,
by
there's
the end of it,
that element of otherism.
yeah,
It's an otherism. Like
yeah,
he others them. You get me? Like, oh, the replicant. She's a replicant. You get
yeah,
me?
yeah, and he even had that scene with her, like when she discovers she's the replicant, and he just takes it as whatever, like, you know what, it's a bad joke. I'm sorry, it's a bad joke. Whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
Once he sees like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done them. He takes it
Yeah,
as comes it down like, okay, like he sees that he is able to empathize with them.
yeah.
You
So
know,
yeah, that
feel
was
that.
like the first signal to empathize with them. So it's like, oh shit, like, um, I don't know, like what made him do that. Like that was just like something that I'm pretty sure he like encountered different like androids and replicants at um his career path, but this one's like kind of different because I it kind of seems like this one's like kind of reacting more authentic, and that I don't think I think what it is like he hasn't seen one that was like um he was that attracted to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, back to the point of him falling in love with like this female replicant.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a new noir film. So like, of
you
course,
gotta
there's
have that.
the whole
Yeah.
infantile. You know.
Yeah, which she wasn't that much of a female fatale. Um, I mean,
No,
she
not in the
was.
aspect of like she's gonna be the death of him or something like that. But
Yeah,
it is more of a taboo. Like, okay, you're
yeah,
falling in love with the replicant. You get me? Like, like you shouldn't do that. They are not like us. They are others. Again, the whole concept of otherism.
yeah. Maybe by the fact that it's seen as a taboo, could be seen like, oh, it's the death of him. But I mean, kind of
Yeah, but that's
subverting,
what
kind
I
of,
meant
kind of.
more like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
little
yeah,
death.
yeah. I know what you're saying, but kind of like subverting that expectation. She actually turned out to be nice, and then that's where he
They,
has his change, and that sense of like empathy towards him. So I think that was his like real change, and having to see like, okay, now I can see like, because they didn't get like, oh, how does it not know it was a fucking uh replicant? But now
yeah.
that he kind of saw like her going through the emotions and shit, it's just like that I don't want to say illusion, but seemingly having to show her going through the motions of like realizing that it's just like, oh, it's almost too human. It's just like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're like artificially made or whatnot, but having to show that it's like sort of a reflection in the mirror. So, I mean, that's the whole point of empathy, having to be in someone's shoes and you being in that sense, in those shoes. Like, how will you put yourself in that reflection or, in that sense? So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's just, yeah, even though it's like fake, like fiction, you're seeing something that's like not real, but seemingly real that you're able to like connect to it. So it's just like in itself, it's fiction.
Well,
I think that's the
it's
genius of that fucking movie.
yeah. It just one of the questions is that this film asks is if like is there a level like there has to be a level where a being, whether they're I mean, in this in this specific case,
Got
it
it.
being like a replicant, if they can emote to a certain level,
Yeah.
you can empathize with them.
Yeah. If it's like,
You know, you have no choice. Like oh, you see it in them, you feel it,
yeah,
so
you
you
feel it.
you have no choice but
And
to
it's,
empathize.
yeah, and it seems almost all too familiar. So you just really can't help yourself. It's just like, oh, okay. I mean, like, it would suck if, like, they would emote the same way that you do, and then they just become like backstabbers. Which I thought that's what, like, well, I know for a fact that's what a female fatale is. It's like, yeah, you feel sorry for them, but at the end of the day, they're playing you, and you got fucking tricked, you know.
Yeah,
But it
yeah,
seems like it was gonna go in that direction, but it's like, no, it's not. Like, she's completely. She really does believe she was human this whole time, but now having this revelation, he's just like, fuck, it sucks. And then we're just like, well,
this is the first.
I'm still gonna have this emotions. I'm not gonna turn bad or anything. This is just the way I'm programmed, the way that a human, like, life is, like, wired that way. We're based on emotions and having to have our own thoughts and opinions on things. So, she goes life on like how the rest of us would take it. It's just yeah, it's a big revelation, but what else can you do but just to be wired the same way you were before you were you were to be discovered that before having that discovery, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good movie, man. Having to talk about this, on nauseum and just on this loop. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is what this movie is about. And then not just the emotions of this Rachel, but also the emotions and the sympathy that um the Nexus 6 has. And they're going more into like existential. Yeah.
Existentialism.
Yes, I hate being Hispanic. And that sense of like having that existence and knowing that you're gonna die one day. And for them, they only have like 4 years as opposed to, like, like the expectancy of life, human life is probably like what, like 75, 80 years. But they only have 4 years, and then they have to like find a way to like live longer. But again, do have been they do have like that sense of pain in them, like just like
Yeah.
every death, yeah, like every death scene that the Blade Runner or Deckard has when he shoots them dead, like they do feel pain or what seems like pain, but the way that they're programmed is just like, yeah, they're emoting like real pain. So it's just like kind of you believe in that shit.
Well, that brings up the question: like, they are they experiencing death? I would say right now, I want to say yes,
Yeah,
because even though they're replicants, they are meeting the end of them. You get me?
yeah. Well, yeah,
To them, it means something. Like, okay, what's and they're replicants, so like there's they haven't dived into like the whole aspect of afterlife and everything. As human beings, we do contemplate that. I mean, I'm sure I've yet to experience this, but I'm sure
oh,
you know
yeah.
when I'm dying, like I'm gonna question all that.
Yeah, yeah,
I think we all
definitely.
do, but
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, everything comes to an end. I mean, everything. If you think about like our electronics, yeah, batteries do have expiration dates. I mean, it's funny to think like, yeah, we definitely have expiration dates. The only difference is like we call it death. To anything that's like non-living or organic, we call it um yeah, expiration or termination. You know, and that's just the way that everyone sees it. Like that's like the other side of looking at things. It's just like, okay, well, they're objects and we're actually organic. But when you make things like seemingly organic, it's just like, okay, well, here's the question: like, well, are they experiencing death just like us? Like the way the way that we program them, um it's very similar to us. So does that validate like that's the same way? You know what I mean? It's just like the only difference is just like I said, objects and or orgasmic. Bleh, that sounded wrong. Uh, yeah, just pretty much people in flesh, really.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but that's another question going into it. Like they do contemplate. It does seem like there are contemplating like death because they do seem sentient in that sense, you know. And
Well, yeah, they're scared
after
of
that,
it too.
yeah,
Because I mean, that's the whole. That's their whole, objective in this and their journey. The next is that they actually make it to Earth, like finding their creator, and hope in the hopes of finding more life, like getting more
yeah,
life.
yeah.
Uh,
Which is something humans can't do unless um. Well, I don't want to go in that direction, but well, I mean, like humans aren't perfect. We have flaws, you know. Medically, and just in our bodies, we could actually produce and develop cancer. But we go to doctors to actually go and seek out their help so we could extend our lifespan. But sometimes it's like inevitable, and we're gonna go towards death no matter what. For them, it's just like it's something that's built into them in that sense.
yeah,
Which is, it kind of sucks. And in either way, it's just like AI, whether we create them or not, like it's just, in some sense, it's art in itself because art in itself is like a reflection in life, really.
yeah. Something that the film didn't dive into, and I'm sure they didn't even consider, mostly because it's a film and they only have like an hour and a half and 2 hours. I mean, the final cut was about 2 hours long.
Yeah.
To you know tell the story they want to tell, but I mean, depends how you look at it too. Like, I mean, if you have 4 years left, 4 years of life,
Mm.
that could be viewed as a blessing too. Like,
Yeah, you're
when
right.
you
Yeah.
die. You get me?
Yeah. At
So I
least,
mean,
yeah, at
if
least
you
you
knew
know when
you
you're
were
alive.
gonna die in 4 years, you would not. You probably wouldn't even be doing this podcast, right?
Yeah.
You get me? You probably wouldn't even be in school. You would probably be out there living each day like it was your last day. You get
Yeah.
me?
I'll probably be doing a lot of drugs and a lot of nonsense
Like
out
you would
there.
give no
No
fucks.
fucks
You
at
get
all.
me?
The
Yeah,
confidence level would actually be fucking ridiculous. It's like none of
yeah,
it matters. I just
yeah,
do whatever I want. So it's just like, oh, well, I mean, but
yeah.
yeah, I do see,
So
yeah, now, yeah, I do see it as a blessing only because, like if you're given like well, I mean, if this was like a sadistic game, like, oh, you only have like 3 years to live, what are you gonna do? And then you're just like, well, I mean, I could get away with anything. I think in a couple of days, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. But it's cool because I'll just fucking die, and then I don't have to face any consequences at all. So it's like,
it's
putting
a
that into
blessing
question.
also with a loved one. Like, for example,
Yeah,
we've been friends for close to a decade now, right?
yeah,
Um, I know it's a morbid thought, but I mean, if you knew I had 4 years to live, like you would be like, oh fuck, okay, well, I only have him for 4 years.
yeah. We'll probably hang out more
Let's
frequently. Yeah,
huh?
we'll probably hang out more frequently than we ever have
Yeah,
before. Yeah,
create more memories, enjoy
yeah,
that time that we still have. You get me?
yeah, definitely.
For You get me? So
Do
by the end of it, you'll be like, okay, I had, Eric was in my life for 4 more years. Like, we made the best of it. We did
yeah,
Y and Z. You get me? But if you don't know, when I'm in my expression, that could probably lead to like once it happens, it's like fuck, dude. Like
Yeah.
I wish I would have known. Like I would have done, this, that, and the third with this guy. Like I would have, gone to like fucking I don't know, made it possible to travel more, road
Yeah.
trip or whatever
Dude,
the fuck. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
just hit all your bucket list all at once.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. You
Yeah.
get me? And I understand why the film doesn't touch on this. I understand that, but
Yeah.
just
No, no,
I'm
that's exactly
yeah.
where it wants us to think about. It's taking us that direction in that life expectancy. I mean, I don't
Well,
want to.
I heard the different cuts. Like for example, I heard the theatrical cut has a different ending where it kind of leads into like this optimistic,
Yeah. Yeah, I heard it was like most of those cuts were more optimistic, and he
Yeah.
actually runs off with Rachel, and then it turns out good for them one way or another. Um. Okay, another tidbit. So there's one. Sorry. So there's one cut where like it ends, and they're going like through cross country, and it's like a forest, and then for some reason it looks familiar. And why does that look familiar? It's because they're going through like a forest and like sort of like a lake, and that's because they actually use B-roll footage from The Shining brought onto like that fucking movie. And this was like 2 years after like The Shining was actually like produced and made. So some of that archive footage was still used right there. So it was like, that's cool, you know. But I mean, everyone wants a happy ending, but I mean, I think it takes a lot of balls and a lot of like effort and just artistic integrity to make things like more um
Realistic.
uh, not realistic. Um, what's it called? It's not ambitious, but it's more of a interpretation towards the end.
More open ended.
Ambiguous. Yeah,
Yeah.
ambiguous. Yeah, there you go. A lot of a lot of filmmakers like especially when you're young, you try to make things ambiguous because it's like, oh, if you make this ambiguous, you're the shit, bro. Like you got this shit. You're a fucking genius. But honestly, you got to start off simple and then maybe like if you have enough thoughts, if you have enough questions, if you have a lot where you if you get your message across as a filmmaker in your movie in that specific movie and you want to make things ambiguous, that's totally your choice as long as it's fucking clear that it's ambiguous. Sometimes it just comes off lazy and just like, oh, it's meant to be ambiguous. It's like, how? And you gotta ask yourself how it was. But I mean, aside from that, like, yeah, it's definitely a bold move. It's pretty big on the filmmakers end. And it's just like, it's just one of those films that does that well and rightfully so. So it's just like, okay, well, it makes sense for this movie to do that and anything, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I mean, yeah, we went through a whole loop on that and the philosophical questioning of this movie. Now we have to go to the nitty gritty of it and actually go through our top two scenes or
I'll
our top scenes in that sense.
pick a different one since I already
Okay,
told you.
yeah, sure. Yeah, guest goes first. So go ahead, man.
Let's see. Um, I like the scene where he goes and pays a visit to that one. I want to say it's exotic dancer with the snake.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
I like that scene just because I mean you're able to see the other range of Harrison Ford, like
yeah,
the more the comedic side of him a little
yeah.
bit.
He's acting the part. He doesn't want to like he's a detective,
Yeah,
but the way that I see it, he's a private detective in that sense. But he's acting as someone else just to infiltrate her. You know. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I do like that because he's like more nerdy and he's just like, oh my god. Well, I want to ask you about the regulations.
Yeah.
Do they treat you right? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, I mean, I'm trying to protect you as a woman, as a feminist. They have peepholes everywhere. Yeah, it's definitely comical, but also it's like, yeah, it definitely is a rage in like Harrison Ford's part because I never seen him like that either. It's pretty cool to see that, you know.
Yeah, it
Um,
kind of reminded me of Steve Martin and
really,
yeah, have you seen the movie, the film Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid?
yeah, yeah. They
Yeah,
showed it.
it kind of reminded me
They
of
showed that
that.
in that movie in that fucking class we took.
Wait, what? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We
they
saw.
did show. Yeah,
Um, yeah, it kind of reminded me like that. Like it was in that style a little bit. You know, not too much, but yeah. Which I liked. I just thought I enjoyed. Like it just
yeah,
stood out from all the rest of the scenes. That scene, and also the when he's eating and he's being approached by Gaff. Like, hey, Brian wants to talk
wait.
to you, and like
Oh, is that your
when
second
he's
scene?
eating, huh?
Is that your second scene?
No, no, that's not my second scene, but it's
Okay.
in the same style of like
Oh, okay, okay.
I
I know
don't
what you're
know,
saying.
like
Yeah,
clumsy, like I don't know, you know,
Kind of oblivious in that sense.
yeah, in a
Yeah,
way, like
he's kind of playing stupid, but he does get discovered, and then he's just like, oh, "Fuck, that bitch really did hurt me," and then had to chase her down. So, fuck. Yeah, that shit was brutal. He's just like, you kind of think like, yeah, androids are much smarter. More, yeah, I would say like just as smart, but way stronger. And he's just like, fuck. And that kind of gives me a sense like, yeah, I don't think that it's a fucking android or a replicant in that sense. It's just like, oh. But yeah. Anything else from that scene or
the scene. No, just I mean that and the fact that they the way they drop they drop well, I don't know drop is the right word, but like they re-emphasize the whole thing about animals. And
yeah, that's right.
is that a real snake? No, that's not a real snake. You think I can afford a real snake? You get me?
Yeah,
The whole
that's
with the whole theme of like nature, like real nature, like how it's at a higher value than artificial life. You know?
yeah. Yeah, that's also building on the world too because animals are rare in that world. So it's like, oh no, they're artificial. They're becoming more artificial and they're not legal like humans. So it's
Hmm.
just like kind of an ironic twist in that sense. It's just like, oh, animals didn't do anything wrong. So I mean, we're just like they're just synthetic from our based on our like engineering. So it's just like shit. We feel so bad that we have to recreate them. So it's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Yeah, good pick.
Yeah.
Um, hey, um, Jesus Christ. Oh, you know what? I will talk about the scene. The I would say like the first time. Well, I guess we already talked about it, but I guess the first time like Deckard actually meets Rachel. So I mean, in that context, you just see her as a secretary for Tyrell Company, and then Tyrell's right there, so he's just like, oh, Deckard's just questioning Tyrell for what happened, like how did Leon got out, and then investigating on that in this case, and he actually like pretty much tests him. Tyrell tests him, uh, based on like what Deckard uses as a test for to detect androids. So he says like, oh, I want to see a negative before I see a positive. He's like, what difference does that make? So he just says, okay, test her, and he's pretty much like, um, being a little cocky in that scene, like Tyrell. So he just says, okay, test her. Like she's nobody knows she's an android, and then it's like, okay, and it's pretty much him having to test her and see like, okay, well, how many questions did it take to like for you to know that she's like a android? And he's at like between 15 or 20, but he already knew she was an android. It was just like, oh shit. So that was kind of like a fascinating scene to actually see. It's like, okay, well, we're hunting down androids, and here you are, like having an android as a fucking secretary. So, you're hitting it pretty close to the chest, but then again, you're the guy that's actually making the android. So he's the source of the problem, and that source of the problem becomes the lead, and then that what seemingly seems like a femme fatale actually becomes like a fucking ally. So all in itself, it's pretty ironic to see like both those things coming out to like the way that it actually benefits Deckard in the long run. So it's like, oh, okay. Um, it was pretty cool because you get to see like, okay, this is how Blade Runners actually operate. They just ask questions. In that sense, they ask different weird questions. Kind of like the same way it was kind of a reflection of like how the movie kind of pretty much opens up. It's just like, okay, you get to ask that questions. Um, which I was gonna get to a point right now, but we could wait for the second scene because I have a second scene for that, which is pretty interesting. So I was just like, okay, well, now we get to see like kind of that's how the world building is. It's just like, oh, how do you detect an android based on the test? You know, so you kind of
Yeah.
get to see that. So it's like, oh yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much my first scene in that sense. So it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I like that scene too. I like the imagery, the cinematography, and the lighting
Yeah,
of that whole scene. Because I don't know, I feel like it emphasizes enlightenment and Deckard. Like, oh, Nexus is at this level. Like,
yeah, they
go
didn't
through
think
like over
they
a
didn't think
hundred questions to like
yeah.
get to like actually realize, oh, they're a replicant. It's no longer I could tell like within 20 questions.
Yeah.
Um,
And
you know,
you get to see like how clever they are to the point where they get to show like a bit of sarcasm. Oh, wait, I got to clip.
A magazine, you come across a full-page nude photo of a girl.
Is this testing whether I'm a replicant or a lesbian, Mr. Deckard?
Just answer the questions, please.
That was actually one of my first scenes because like that was one of the questions that was just like and come back at you like real hard. It's like, are you questioning me if I'm a lesbian or not? So it's kind of like avoiding that question, evading that question in itself, and just like just kind of questioning that question in itself. It's just like, oh, like this is a double entendre. Like, oh, humans could be like that too. So kind of, I felt like Terrell was expecting it. I said like, okay, well, try out our replicants, see how authentic we are. We're better than we made a better model than the Nexus 6 in that sense. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that she was actually like a Nexus 7 or some shit.
maybe
Yeah,
maybe a
because they
middle
did kept it
might
too close to that. Yeah, because they did kept her close to the chest because she
yeah,
was in the fucking company. So, but yeah,
yeah, definitely.
um, honestly, I'm ready for my second beer. But before I get into that, I do like this beer. It's just I expected a little bit more dankness out of it.
I like my beer.
Yeah,
It's IPA. I would buy it again. I'm
yeah,
glad I bought a 4 pack.
yeah. Oh, really? Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Now yeah, I got a whole fucking weekend to yourself, man. That's good. If I were to rate this beer, I'll I'll do like a 3.75 out of the five
At
in quarter
5
system. Yeah, it's in quarter systems. That's how me and Manny do it. How would you rate it?
out of 5, right?
Yeah, out of five in quarter systems. So you could do like 4.5, 3.75. Like I said,
Yeah, I
2.5.
would do like a 4.
You do
4
a
or 5.
4?
Yeah.
Nice. Wait, what's it called again?
Fresher reality.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out if they have it here. I don't know, but yeah, that's
And
good.
then you're bound to come down to, Ramirez at some point.
Yeah, but they might not have it because that might be a seasonal beer. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go get my next beer. Okay.
Alright.
Are you sleepy? Please don't sleep. If you sleep,
No, it's just you know me. I kind of rarely drink, so it's like
yeah, it gets you there.
yeah. Especially if it's 7.5.
Cool. Okay, this is not for the show at all, so it's not gonna go in the archive. But we did have this like on the last podcast. You're wondering like, oh, this will fucking hold up on beer, but
A
actually,
little bit, a little higher.
yeah, this is on our
Oh,
last podcast.
what's it called?
It's
The steam.
called "The Struggle Is Real." So
Oh,
we did it on conspiracy theories. So I thought I got it because it had like a T Rex, and then like on the side it had like a UFO. So it's going into that territory. So I was like, oh shit, that's just fucking dope.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So I'm just drinking like the rest of it. It's like a 4-pack, bro. That shit was expensive. I was just like, what the fuck? When I looked at the bill, I thought I was paying for the whole because I bought a flight beforehand, and I thought it was included the beer, but the beer itself like was a whole different thing, so it was like separated from the flight. And this shit was like $40.
$40 down,
That shit
bro.
was $40.
For,
I was
for,
like, I fuck, oh, bro. It was like a brewery like close to where I live, so I was like, oh fuck. Jesus, the shit I do for this podcast. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh, dude, what the fuck?
hey, the struggle is real.
Yeah, exactly. Just bringing it back around. Oh, damn, that's a good one.
All right. Want to do my beer?
Yeah, if you will, you won't like knock out on that one, right?
Nah, I'm not.
All right, for sure.
Uh, this Troubles Brewing. I
Oh
don't know.
shit,
Kind of like the imagery a little bit. Like it's
is
kind of
that
chaotic a
paperback?
little bit. Huh?
Is that paperback?
What do you mean paperback?
Oh no, it's El Segundo Brewing Company.
Yeah,
I see it.
Segundo.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, it's because sometimes like paperback will actually make like a sort of like a noir or like a movie type of graphic, like an older movie type of graphics in their graphic for the beer. So it's like, oh, I thought that was paperback.
You. Oh, oh. If you wanted to read off of yours, but I mean, if you did it already in the last part, I don't know if you want to go through it again. I mean, you could.
No,
Just saying.
I already went through it. You don't have anything on your end?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's from Hop City Express. It's an El Segundo Brewing Company and
Yeah, that's the brewery.
Ogopogo Brewing Production. I guess a collaboration. Collaboration.
Oh, really? Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me check that.
It says in the city of endless roads, two breweries join forces to take down the looming haze and bubbly water syndicate and bring justice back to the West Coast.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Hobbs, Simcoe, Mosaic,
Mosaic. Yeah.
Chinook, Mosaic Creole. And yeah, it's 6.7 alcohol volume.
Oh shit, that's cool. Wait, could you show the graphics for it? Like in the camera?
The what?
The graphics for it on the camera.
The graphics.
Yeah, show a little bit of a smile. Here it is. Yeah. Trouble's Brewing. All right, I got the shot. Cool.
Cheers.
All right. That was like a long pause.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's pretty good. IPA, citrusy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
mine
like it.
is yeah, mine is pretty citrusy from last week, so I said it was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, yeah. What is it, an IPA?
I don't know. Actually, no, I don't think it is.
Really?
Okay, you're no. Oh yeah, it is an IPA.
Oh,
My bad.
okay, yeah. That's just cool. Yeah,
Sorry.
those graphics are pretty cool. All I gotta say, I wish I could taste it. Um, you got that from Ramirez, like you said.
Yeah, yeah.
Legit. When do you think? Wait, I'm thinking about it. So is Ramirez like a drive for you, or is it just like,
It was about a 20-minute drive
oh, okay, yeah,
to
no
it and
doubt,
then back. Yeah. So that was
yeah,
like an hour of my day. Going there, picking out the beer, then getting back home.
no shit, that's cool. I
Yeah, it's
like
not
it.
too bad.
It's not that bad. So I'm like thinking about like where Whittier is at and then where you're at. It's just like, okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's just cool. God damn. Yeah, I just honestly, I just gotta like discover more craft beer places around here. Cause the only places I go to now is just like Total Wine and More. But Total Wine and More is pretty cool. But sometimes it's just like they're stuck on the same seasonal beer for like a month. You know what I mean? And then it's just like, okay, well, Ramirez or places like that is just like, oh, they're constantly kind of changing, like 3 weeks to a month. So it's just like, oh, consistency is a little bit um, more there, if anything. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, so we just did our top um first ones. So we're gonna go on our round two for the top twos on that one. So, I mean, do you have like another scene you want to talk about, or
Let's see that one time about and we let's see. Well, I picked one earlier, and then I said I was gonna pick another one, so I'm picking another one. And then I feel like you picked the other one that I was gonna go with, the one with Rachel, the integration scene.
really? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
Not really. I'm
no,
sorry.
not good.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe let's see. Oh no, I kind of got to think about this. Uh, maybe the whole scene where Deckard finally goes to was it Tyler's like place or mansion? No, no, not Tyler. The guy helping Tyler.
Okay.
Towards the end of the scene, where
Yeah, yeah,
he's trying
yeah.
to find the replicants and like the female replicant, the
Hmm.
one that
When he finds his, yeah, when he goes up there in the elevators and he finds Pris. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, the one with all the makeup. Like he's trying to find her. She's like hiding as a mannequin or
yeah.
something. Yeah, that was pretty
That's
cool.
another
Like
thing.
the
Yeah,
imagery and everything. It was really like futuristic and like I don't know, dystopian.
yeah,
Because you're like she's right there. How can you not see her?
yeah,
I don't know, and it kind of speaks onto the whole the whole theme of oh, how they can blend in, the
yeah.
replicants.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was thinking about like, I mean, they're objects too, so in a way, they're kind of like toys. So it's kind of making like that certain subjectivity of like, yeah, in a way, there are subjects or they're possessions in that sense. So it's just like, oh, so making that fucking difference. But also in that scene, like some of the toys didn't even trust like that girl. So it was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird. But in a way, it's like, oh fuck, like he found a way to make them sentient that they were able to like say like, okay, well, you can't trust this bitch or that guy. So I don't know. It's kind of cool. I have something to say about that guy, but it's gonna be in my top two in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene is, it leads into like the whole ending of it all,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what it all boils down to,
Yeah.
and him, it's pretty tense also. The fact that, he's walking in, he doesn't exactly know what he's getting into, he might die, and then like, you're watching this and you're like, oh, she's right there, dude. Like, how can you not tell? Like,
Yeah. Sort of
um,
like that. What I think about is Hitchcock, because it's one of those things that Hitchcock always philosophized. Like, okay, the thing about suspense is like there's something that the audience knows that the character doesn't know that makes things suspenseful. So it's just like, okay, he's putting in at that place. So um I guess like that film moving forward and obviously like being inspired by Hitchcock, there's something that's like, okay, something's about to happen, but let's just see how it resolves or has that revelation, which is what drama is, going into the unexpected. Definitely. Yeah, that's a good pick, man. That's definitely a good pick. Um, I think my first pick would my second, sorry, would have to be that um when that girl meets Pris, when she meets like that guy, because there's also like another thing that's going into this film that certain people are not talking about, but the way that the AI behaves is just like very radical and very machine like and very unnatural like. It's sort of like people have actually compared this to people who are on the spectrum, like they have autism. And watching this movie this time around, I noticed that the the guy that picks up the trash and actually picks up Priz when they first meet, and he takes to the apartment. He has like a bunch of toys, and he actually engineered those toys. And you find out like, oh, well, he works for the Tower Rail Corporation. That guy is actually on autism. He's actually like on the spectrum. So that's something that I noticed. I was like, oh, there's like a stark difference or the similarities, because the way that people like from what I heard, when they see like that interrogation thing with like Leon, it's just like, oh, like he's acting exactly how like someone on spectrum would actually act, which is ironic because like the way that people like talk about like people on spectrum is just like, yeah, they're human, but in some sense they think like machines. Not to sound insensitive, but it's just like, they act a certain way that's just like, they're on a whole level of intelligence that we can't comprehend, that the way that they behave is like, that's the mentality that they have in that sense. And, having someone that does is actually human and on the spectrum and having to relate to like androids is actually pretty revelating, in that sense, in every sense, that way. This is like, oh, well, it makes sense that this movie actually does that. Sorry if I said sense like so many times, but you know, it just it just completes everything. It's interconnected, and I'm glad that they actually put that into the movie and actually had that thought process into the movie, because yeah, if anything, it has something to talk about, like uh, not just humanity, but also just like people who think of a certain way. Because of course, if we were to make like an AI program, just like a robot, if they were to be organic or in that sense, like they will have like a certain like way of like thinking or that matter of mentality in one way or another. So it's like, okay, well, here I go again. That makes sense. So Yeah, that would be my top two if anything. Like just him having to bring her into the apartment and seeing what he's about, what she's about, and then automatically he actually knows they're Nexus 6. He's like, "Oh, you're a Nexus 6 because I engineer you." So it's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I know my work from anywhere, so I was just like trying not to like assume anything, but now that I know you're my work, really." So I just wanted to bring that up because that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my top two.
yeah. That's an interesting point that you bring up about like
Yeah.
how like autistic folk
Mm-hmm.
in this world. Like I mean, if they go through that what is it, the VK test? I don't know what VK stands for. I forget.
Oh yeah. That's something. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's something similar that they do like with the androids too. So it's just like, oh, again, there's that reflection or that similarity.
yeah. Like I mean, how would they like how would autistic folk pass that test? You get me?
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, I'm sure some can, but I mean,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
but
be
I
surprised
think,
if they
I think they use
fail
that.
it,
Yeah, I think they
or
use.
like they, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, the purpose of that was just like to detect if that person is really on the spectrum or not. You know. So I think going into this movie, they're using that test the same way they were to like someone that's autistic or on the spectrum, one way or another. So it's like, okay,
The VK test that I'm talking about is from the movie. That's
so it's
that's
based
what
on
they
the
use.
movie.
Yeah, that's what they use to determine whether this is a replicant or not.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering what
I'm pretty
about
sure.
when they tested an autistic person? Do you get
Yeah,
me?
I'm pretty sure it's that back test is based on like what they test on people who are on the spectrum, because they do have a test for that.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah, I'm sure
imagine.
I'm
Yeah,
sure they have
they do. Yeah,
multiple ways of determining that. But yeah, yeah.
yeah. So they have that kind type of sense in one way or another. So it's like, okay, yo, there's certain things that are like based on reality. So again, this is art, so it's like a reflection of our life in that one way or another. So yeah, that was a good pick. Honorable mentions, I would say we already talked about the interrogation scene. We just talk. You know what? I'm gonna play that interrogation scene.
187.
Both integrations seems pretty
Yeah,
good. The one with Rachel
Where I
too.
live.
yeah. This is the one with
Nice
Leon.
place?
Yeah, sure, I guess. Is that part of the test?
No, just warming you up, that's all.
Sorry if it's a little.
It's not fancy or anything.
You're in a desert, walking along in the sand when all of a
Is
sudden...
this the test now?
Yes, you're in a desert, walking along in the sand when all of a sudden you look
What
down.
one?
What?
What desert?
Doesn't make any difference what desert. It's completely hypothetical.
But how come I'd be there?
Maybe you're fed up. Maybe you want to be by yourself. Who knows? You look down and you see a tortoise, Leon. It's crawling towards
Tortoise? What's that?
you. You know what a turtle is?
Of course.
Same thing.
Yeah. So that clip that I showed, or actually played, um, yeah, really coming back to it. That's the first thing we talked about, but also now that I'm thinking about it, it does set the world well in that sense, because it also sets up like, okay, well, he doesn't know what a tortoise is because nobody knows what a tortoise is at this point because all our animals are extinct. So it's also setting up um that detail in that world. So it's like, okay,
Yeah, but it's also interesting because like no one knows what a tortoise is. Well, some people do. Obviously, the
I think the
interrogator
older
does.
ones, yeah, the
Yeah,
older people do.
But even though, even the people that don't know, they'll know of it.
Yeah,
Like for example, Leo, whatever his name is, didn't know what a tortoise is,
tortoise.
but he knew what a turtle was. He even says
Says the same thing.
himself. I don't know what it is. He says something like,
What is that?
I've never seen one, but I know what it is. Or something like
No,
that.
he says like, what is that? And then he says, and then the interrogator says like, oh, so it's like sort of like a turtle. So he's giving him an idea of what that animal is. So it's like, yeah, it's sort of like a turtle. He knows what a
Same
turtle
thing.
is. Yeah. So there's a sense like, okay, well, it brings up this question, like, well, not brings up this question, but it brings up like this detail that he knows what a turtle is because he might have seen like an artificial turtle, but they haven't they haven't made like an artificial tortoise because they didn't see that as like something significant to like bring back or make a replication of it.
If I remember
Yeah,
correctly, I think Leon says, I don't know, it's something along the lines of, I've never seen one, but I know what a turtle is.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly what he says.
yeah.
So it gives him an
Um,
idea. So it's like, okay, well, again, interesting word because they do call androids as replicants. So everything else, every animal that they made artificially is a replicant because they are replicating like these animal species. So it's like, okay, well, you know what a turtle is, but a tortoise is a specific animal, but it wasn't as significant enough to like bring him back or make a replicant out of it. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. You know, it kind of shows you like, okay, there's a limited amount of like species that you will want to bring back, which is true because there's actually like species that have become endangered over the years, and they brought them back because they thought it was important enough. So it's just like, okay, but in this role, it tells you like, okay, tortoise. I don't know. You would have to live in Earth to know what a tortoise is, but for a replicant that's been like in Mars and everything, you wouldn't know what a tortoise is. You know what I mean? He's just like, okay, it's a specific animal, but only if you're from Earth, you would kind of know because they're extinct or they're close to extinction. So it's just like, oh, it's one of those cases. In that sense,
yeah,
that's what it's telling me. I don't
yeah.
know. Besides that, I mean, I would say like towards the end. Yeah, I would say towards the end. I would
Very
say,
poetic.
yeah, when Batty is actually fighting like Harrison Ford, which kind of brought me to thinking about like, um, yeah, he's the main bad guy, but he knows he's gonna die. But I think he's kind of spent and kind of like messed around with Deckard long enough to know like, yeah, he feels pain. He's a human enough. At this point, what's the point of fucking killing him? Let me show you like what I have to say in my final words, or what it means to live during my final moments, which is kind of big of like the antagonist to do, because the antagonist was like, oh, going against someone, but at the end of the day, it's just like, I'm about to die. I'm about to be the bigger man, which is ironic because he's an android, so he's just like becomes the most human by saving him and showing him like telling him like, oh, there's things that you humans wouldn't believe. And I experienced all this shit, but you know what? At the end of the day, I only lasted 4 years, and my memory's gone to shit, and no one's ever gonna remember this shit. It's just kind of like sad and poetic at the same time because when you come to being poetic, there's some truth and there's some pain that comes into it. So it's like, oh shit, you know. Which I mean, that last line that he says is just goes down in cinematic history. Let me play it.
In a magazine, you come across a full-page nude photo of a girl.
Right,
Is
that's
this
not it.
testing
That's
whether
not
I'm a
it.
replicant or a lesbian, Mr. Deck?
Sorry, that's not it. I thought I actually put it. Damn it. I think I played it over. But honestly, basically tells Deckard like just exactly what I just said before, that he wouldn't believe what humans were to say. He's seen all this shit like in fucking different planets, which you never see in the movie, but it is mentioned in like in the beginning of the movie that this colony is in Mars. This colony is in like different planets at this point, and his memory and his emotion towards those memories, which we actually do see in his fucking character throughout the whole movie. Like he feels sorry for Prism when he dies, and he kind of feels it. He
Yeah,
does mention that shit.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
it makes you wonder, like, okay, the fact that, you know, he's experienced more in a shorter amount of time,
Mhm.
is does that make him more human than a human?
Yeah,
You get me?
yeah. But he also does say like you're also he has to do something with fear. You also have that emotion of fear, so that in a sense makes you a slave, which is ironic because like his whole ordeal in one way or another, like he wanted to live long because he in one way or another did fear death, and he didn't want to go to expired. And when his time came, it was kind of good timing on that. Well, I mean, every movie's good timing. Is that he got to say his final thing and have to say like, okay, well, you know, I experienced all that shit, but at the end of the day, our memory is just gonna go down as like nothing. It's gonna be forgotten as tears in the rain, which is
Nihilism,
poetic, nihilistic
poetic.
poetic. Because how can you tell the difference between a tear and a raindrop? So it's just like gonna drain down in the flow. It's just like fuck. So that's fucking deep, and I'm pretty sure every cinematic nerd has cried through that fucking monologue a thousand
Yeah.
times. You know?
Now you're making me think of like the scene before that scene, the whole chase
Yeah.
of like Deckard getting chased down, him running for his life and about to die. Like, was that the replicant's like version of like a test? You know, to make
Um.
him realize, to make him see, oh, okay, can I get this replicant or human being, really advanced replicant or human being, this other replicant or maybe other,
I see. I see it. Yeah.
human being, to realize, like, hey, I'm a replicant, but like, I can still emote. You can
Yeah.
still relate to me.
Yeah. 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 No, you're
You
right
know?
on. Yeah, you're right on that because the emote is pretty much equivalent because he's speaking on about like the fear of like dying, but also ironically, the whole point of coming to Earth was based on like that fear of dying, you know, having to find or requesting more expansion towards his life. And then here you have Decker running for his life, fearing for his life, and having to like in desperate times he will do anything. He even climb up that fucking like the closet, or no, not the closet, but like the cabinets and whatnot, just to like get up high and just like avoid from being killed by Roy. And then Roy's like, at this point, like going back again with like, you have a few minutes of your life now that you could do whatever the fuck you want. He's basically like having to uh embrace that, not giving a fuck. So he's the one like giving out the fear, not giving a fuck. When you not giving a fuck, that's what people most fear. And pretty much at the end of it, he's just like, yeah, Deckard is scared for his life, and I see that. But also, I come to the end of this point. It's just like, fear brought me here, and fear brought you here as well. So they're at a certain equivalent point that it's just like, this is all I gotta tell you. I'm not the typical bad guy that you thought I was. And in the end of the day, he became a bigger man, and Roy died as a human being in that sense. So it's like, it's beautiful in that sense.
Arguably more
Yeah.
like a human being plus, if you will.
Yeah, so he took that in a mature way. You could have killed him, but it's like, kind of thought about it. It's just like, I'm an intelligent higher being or equivalent to. So it's like, what am I gonna get out of it? With Tyrell, he straight up killed him because it was just like despiteful for him. He couldn't help him from expanding his life longer. So again, going back to nihilism, it's just like there's no point. So it's like, fuck you, and then straight up kill him. But when it comes to Deckard, it's just like, oh, well, fuck that. So it's like, there's no point. So again, it's just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Going all around in itself. I mean, there's different points. I mean, it's a movie that definitely makes you think a lot in that sense. But yeah, they just come to the end. The end is just what the point of the movie is.
Well, depending which ending you watch, but yeah.
Well, I mean, what we talked about before is like, okay, either we care or not, is Deckard a replicant or not. But I mean, after watching the movie this whole time, I mean, machines are supposed to be cold, but the way that the humans in this movie carry themselves kind of seems cold, and it's almost replicant. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, they act cold because they're showing no remorse for something that they perceived as cold. So it's just like, kind of gives that sense. But yeah, like it comes to that question. I honestly, I never thought about like that question, like, oh, is Deckard a replicant or not? I never thought about that question until like a few years ago, because to me, I don't think that even matters. I think it's just like the other things that we mentioned, or the themes that this movie is trying to say, that was the point of the movie. I don't think like Deckard being a replicant at the end of the movie, what you think or not, it was actually the point of the movie. I think that's just something that just like, okay, that's something to think about. That's an afterthought, if you will.
Yeah, like I mean, the movie, it doesn't really matter in regards to the movie. You get me? But I mean, the people that insist on whether it does matter, I think they're thinking about it beyond the movie. Like, okay, what if I meet someone, fall in love with them, and find out they're a replicant? Would that matter to me? You get me? Something like that, Like I studied, a little bit of philosophy, and this kind of dives into, philosophy of mind a little bit of like, the whole replicant issue. Like, I mean, if you create a replicant, give him memories and experiences, past experiences, like a history, like a background, and like, it matters to them, and like, it's real to them. Like are they human? Like, is there a certain point where you can say, oh no, they're a conscious being. They have a soul.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
I remember writing a paper on this, and like and like the analogy that I kind of used with that paper was okay, let's say I send this doesn't sound a little weird, but let's say, Sergio, I can't hear you, Sergio.
Yeah, it's hypothetical. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hypothetical. But let's say, Sergio, I send you a selfie of me.
Okay.
Like, all right. Now, I still have that selfie. My selfie doesn't delete, but you now have that selfie. Now, the question comes up, like, is your selfie an original selfie or a copy of my selfie?
Yeah. Cause
I mean,
there's just that question like, oh, how many times could it be duplicated? But
yeah.
the
And
thing, the answer is like,
what doesn't
you
make it
never know.
original? What doesn't make it original? The
Yeah,
fact that I sent it to, the fact that I still have it, that mine still exists, and like there's a whole endless freaking Pandora box of like
yeah, I get
of
it.
like
Yeah,
questions that go that you answer one question and it just makes you ask like 100 more. You get me?
yeah. You're
But
just
yeah,
going into that what do you call it? That looking mirror, if you will, of
yeah.
that possibilities of having to go through like that looking glass. There you go. The looking
Mhm.
glass of the possibilities of like you never know the answer, but if you go through that rabbit hole, you're never gonna come out of it the same way. So it's just like you know, yeah, it's definitely going into that thread of it all. So it's just like oh shit. So I mean, that's what the movie is designed to be. So it's like oh fuck, if anything,
Yeah, but in terms of the movie, I don't think it matters.
yeah, if
Yeah.
anything.
Uh,
But I mean, aside from this movie, I really want to go into the legacy because it really created like um the genre of like cyberpunk. I mean, I have my whole background. This is cyberpunk. This is neon color metropolitan metropolitan city. Sorry, that it's very colorful, very liveful, very technological, and honestly, it comes straight up from Japan, but also it could come out straight up from this movie. And technology is always going to be ongoing, and there's always going to be that thought about like what it means to be human. I mean, this is a whole subgenre of like cyberpunk because this movie brought it forward like about movies that influence like movies like and like anime movies like freaking oh fuck I'm gonna get into Ghost in the Shell and also The Matrix, which also The Matrix was like influenced by Ghost in the Shell. But I mean, there's a whole thread about like the ongoing futuristic future and the future of AI having to ongoing and having to question like what validates memory, what validates like to be human in itself, and you know this movie definitely in existence. Like I'm glad that it brought forward like those threads and that process of thinking because you wouldn't have the movies that we had right now. You know, we wouldn't have like Ghost in the Shell or The Matrix or even like something as recent as like I hate to say, but like Cyberpunk 2077. You know, because it brought for whole culture, a whole fucking aesthetic about Japanese American, but also technology, and also about the question about what it means to be human and the memories and the sentience that come along with it into one like full um into a full genre, if you will. And I mean, this movie could be questioned and could be like, you put this movie into like a philosophical class and then have it to discuss and have it to question everything that it's saying in itself. And now I'm realizing this is actually my final word on the fucking movie, because that's really bringing it home to like everything that I think about what this movie represents, what this movie is about. And I'm glad it exists for everything what it says and what it does. So, uh, going on that is the final word. I mean, what's your final word on this movie?
yeah, man, I've been meaning to watch this movie, but it's been on my list, but I just haven't. There's a lot of movies on my list. There's a lot of shows on my list. There's a lot of books on my list and a lot of plays. But this gave me good reason to actually, you know, buckle down and sit and watch it. You know, uh, I do look forward to watching Blade Runner 2049, but I don't know. I'm sure you've seen it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I mean, I do look forward to watching that. Hopefully sometime soon. I don't know. Um, Also, like, I was looking through like the all the different platforms that have the movie. Like HBO Max has Blade Runner, the final cut. Netflix has the final cut. And I think that's it.
Yeah,
I think.
it's
Well, I mean,
everywhere.
like Amazon Prime has it to rent or buy. So does YouTube. You get me? But yeah. But while I was researching, like while I was searching for it on the platforms, when I searched it on HBO Max, apparently there's like a TV show, like a TV animation show.
Yeah, no, there's an animated series on that, but
Oh,
that's based after the events of 2049. So yeah,
yeah. I looking forward to watching that, maybe checking that out.
yeah, let's check it out and just do that. Cause I'm definitely gonna check it out just to see like how that holds up. Cause I
Yeah.
definitely seen that. I mean, besides the final cut out, I did see the sequel, and after the sequel, they did have like animated series and all that. So it's like, okay, well, there's definitely like more to it than it is. But they definitely want to expand this world more than it is. So it's like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah,
it's like,
I can see that it does deserve that.
yeah,
You know, them, you know, how was that? Them still pursuing the questions that open
yeah,
up.
yeah, it
You
definitely
know,
does. So yeah, I know you didn't see that movie, so I was thinking to bring it up that movie, but I feel like that's a conversation for another day. If anything,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
definitely a good
yeah,
movie.
definitely.
It's a good movie. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. All right, so I think we're already out talked this whole movie in itself in like about what, like 2 hours? Yeah, like over 2 hours. So I think we're pretty much pooped. Um, it's a definitely good pick. Honestly, I'm so glad I called you on this because I know you were like a you're a philosophy minor, sorry.
hmm,
So, I definitely wanted to ask you about like, oh, what do you get out of this movie? And I'm glad that you get the moral central idea of this movie. So it's like, oh yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about. So, I'm glad you
yeah.
came through.
Appreciate you forcing me to watch this movie finally.
I didn't force you, but I was just like, "Hey, have you watched the movie?" He's like, "It's on my list." I
No,
was like, "Okay,
the key word is appreciate. Trust me. The
yeah,
key word is not force. Trust
okay."
me. I appreciate
I
that.
just hope you
Yeah.
didn't get. Yeah, I didn't want you to use force, but yeah, appreciate is a better word. So
Um. No, because I mean, otherwise I would have probably it would have still been on my list. You get me?
yeah,
Like I've been on your podcast before. Like I'm glad to do it. Not just because I'm your friend, but I do have a good time. It's a good excuse to drink and
yeah.
get
That's
introduced to more
well,
beer.
a good excuse. Yeah, a good excuse to watch the movie and then drink. So it's like, oh yeah. So I think
Yeah. So, and discuss film, which I love doing. The only thing I love discussing more than film is theater. Because I'm theater geek.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
We gotta have another theater episode. So we're definitely gonna have that in the works. Yeah,
well, let me know.
definitely.
That's my favorite topic right there. You're no.
Definitely. All right. With that said, yeah, we just talk about Blade Runner. Um, we have more to come. There's more movies to come. You're definitely gonna be welcome into it, Eric, in the future.
Thank you.
Uh, okay. Well, just to give you a sneak peek, um, we are gonna talk about Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood movie. We still need to talk about Austin Powers.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good episode right there.
Yeah, it's gonna
Awesome.
be because it came out in '97, so it's gonna be like in its anniversary. Um,
That makes sense.
there's definitely gonna be a Quentin Tarantino in the future, Tarantino film episode in the future because Reservoir Dogs is gonna be in its 30th anniversary. Yeah, 30th anniversary this year. So I know that for a fact because Manny was born in '92, so he's 30, and then now this movie's gonna be 32. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. So we're definitely gonna have that in the future, more film episodes. But we're not gonna fill up with film. We're gonna fill up with like more video games, more beer episodes. There's gonna be a couple beer festivals coming up in the future, so look forward to that. Um, so it's gonna be all good. So looking good. So if you want to find us, we're at Golden Craft Cast and IG, Instagram. Check us out in like Spotify. We're on video, so we can see our pretty faces. Spotify. We're also on YouTube. Catch us up on Anchor. Catch us up on anywhere we can find podcasts. So this has been a good one. I'm Sergio. This is
Erik Rodriguez.
So this has been a good one. I'm glad I had you on this episode, Blade Runner. Blade Runner is definitely a good movie that's definitely gonna be talk about like generations from now. And I don't know if I feel like I'm like one of the lucky ones, one of those generations that, I didn't even appreciate that shit now, but now I appreciate it. Like now that I'm actually much older and appreciate what life is about. So, it's been good. So I'm glad I had you, man. You're a good dude.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a Golden Crab Cast. We always have to run it twice.
Welcome to
So this is me, Sergio. And that's Erik. Blade Runner forever. And ever, and ever, and ever. So catch us up. It's been a good one. Thank you, good night, and good luck. Good day.